It has been 34 years since a Tampa Bay teenager was murdered. Shelly Boggio's murder is known as one of the most violent crimes in Pinellas County's history. 2 men were convicted of her murder, but only one of them is sitting on death row. James Dailey. 10 News reporter Liz Crawford talked to Dailey's attorney, who says his client is innocent.
There's overwhelming evidence of his innocence.
Josh Dubin works for the Innocence Project. He's representing James Dailey, who's sitting on Florida's death row. He met Dailey Tuesday.
It was somber and it was emotional, and yet there's this interesting resilience and flicker of hope that the governor will listen and that the clemency board will listen.
Dailey and his friend Jack Pearcy were found guilty for the 1985 murder of 14-year-old Shelly Boggio. She was beaten, choked, stabbed more than 30 times, and held underwater until she drowned. 10 News spoke to the man who found her body in 1985.
I really didn't know for sure until the police, the officers, patrolmen went over there. And then when the body was pulled up on the bank, you could see blood coming from the neck.
Was the body clothed?
No.
Pearcy was sentenced to life in prison. Dailey, who is now 73 years old, was sentenced to death. But now, 3 decades later, Pearcy admits he acted alone in killing Boggio.
He has said in no uncertain terms, in a sworn affidavit, James Dailey had nothing to do with this.
But he didn't say that in 1985, 86, 87.
Correct. This didn't happen until a few years ago that he finally came clean.
Boggio's family doesn't buy it. Her cousin, Andrea Boggio, plans on traveling from Michigan to Florida if and when Dailey is executed.
It needs to end. We need justice. Her life needed to matter. She was only 14.
There was no eyewitnesses.
No eyewitnesses, no forensic evidence, no physical evidence whatsoever connecting James Dailey to the crime.
All right, so we are unbelievably, we have done what, 6, I think, episodes, but only 3 cases.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to introduce you, Mom. So Elena, go ahead and hit us off.
Hello, Elena. Mom. Again, let's follow directions.
Mom? What?
She was going to introduce you.
Oh. Go ahead.
Let's listen. Please.
Let's start over.
No, we're not starting over. So I wanted to inform you guys of Mom's fitness routine. She spoon curls with a side of sugar high aerobics. Who needs a gym when you have a kitchen and a love for all things sweet?
That is my regiment.
That was good.
That was cute.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a drink that I did. The last one was Elena's Delicious Teas. And, no, or Mom's.
No.
Mom was the thief.
No,
it was hers.
Tea.
Oh, yeah. I was
Mine
trying to
wasn't
falsely
delicious.
accuse you. Yes, I forgot. Okay. So this one, I have no idea what it's called. So I'll just tell you the ingredients. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
And let's...
No boomerang?
She already did that.
I think it needs a little bit of sweetness.
Oh. No.
Well.
Wow.
Let me one more time.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Where'd you get this recipe?
The poppies.
The poppy is all
winners.
that's been good.
No, only one poppy.
Maybe we need to go back to
The second
wine.
wasn't that
I thought
great.
it was good, right?
I would like some wine.
I would too.
sometime.
I think,
Yeah.
you know what? We just...
I have. I'm excited.
Okay, yeah, that was terrible. It was coffee with cocoa powder, almond milk, the
Peppermint oil.
peppermint,
Maple syrup.
and maple syrup.
What would have been good is the actual sweetened hot chocolate.
Or, as
Or-
Mom likes to call the whey powder, wee powder. We probably could have put a little bit of wee powder in there.
But Susan does too.
Because of you, I'm sure.
Probably.
No, I don't think so.
I mean,
Because she loves to colorectomy. Did you hear that?
And you
Colorectomy.
do as well. Vice
Yes.
versa.
Not words typically.
yeah.
I don't
You
like
just
to.
corrected me.
So, who's doing drinks next time?
What do you mean?
Is it you or Mom? Mom, right? Is yours going to be good? Maybe we need to crack open a bottle of wine. Which, by the way, I had
mine's
a taste
alcohol,
of that
except the cocoa.
Sauvignon, and it was horrible. I was gagging. I poured it down the sink.
Yeah.
Was it an old bottle?
It was
No.
terrible.
I think so. It's just like, well, really any varietal. But Sauvignon Blancs can be really delicate or they can be quite strong and very grapefruity. I feel like that's
It was grapefruity.
and strong.
Yeah. Can you get that a little bit closer? I think you're... No, you can pull it closer to you if you want. Okay.
Don't kiss it.
All right. Like Susan.
On it.
Yeah, like Susan.
That was so
And then she
Yeah,
went like
I thought
that.
she was going to be like John Mayer making out with it. Okay. This one I have been waiting to do with you guys because I cannot decide. I wish I had my phone. Where's your phone? I want a picture of a
We don't
lamb.
have time for pictures. We got to get
It's
this
over
done.
there.
We have training and eating.
So this, I'm leaning definitely toward one side more than the other.
Okay, neutral. Try to be neutral.
Well, I will be pretty neutral
Okay,
because
cool.
I'm just not sure.
Okay.
And I don't believe that justice was served on any side, actually. And this is a case of Shelly Boggio, I believe, or Boggio. She was a 14-year-old that was viciously murdered May 5th, 1985. But I want to go into some of the background. But the main accused, his name is James Dailey. Have y'all heard of his
Yeah.
case?
Well, no, that name sounds familiar.
It came up with Governor DeSantis because the Innocence Project is trying to get him off of death row because, spoiler alert, he was sentenced to death row for the murder of Shelly. And there are definitely some things that I probably would not have been comfortable with death row. I don't have the court documents, though. Again, I like those because we find out information that you usually don't hear because people are just more swayed toward their belief and they either don't know things or they leave them out or they add things that aren't truth. But the latest I believe I heard is it has been denied. So he might be executed at any time in this next year, or I don't think he's been executed yet.
Oh, that reminds
James Dailey?
I wanted to say this on the Peterson case. And I remembered, they had the project, Innocent Project.
I know, they've taken
They
it
have
up.
taken his case, and I just don't know why.
media.
What they see.
It's the media.
It's just crazy.
It's the media.
But they're pretty picky, though.
Yeah. I don't know.
I forgot to mention it yesterday, but
I did too. Yeah, I saw that. How many chances can a poop bird that killed his pregnant wife get? And I think it's ridiculous. I don't think there's enough evidence for them even to take this case. The
That's why I
Innocence
was
Project.
surprised.
They obviously think there is.
No, I think it's media driven. It could be. Maybe there's someone that actually believes him, but there's so much that supports guilt that I don't.
because they usually have a whole team looks at every bit of
But
evidence.
this one, I could see them possibly checking into it, which they are.
Right.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I don't think he's been executed yet.
Well,
So
I was not hoping, but I was trying to set date.
the set date for the
Yeah.
execution.
Didn't
It was supposed to be at the end of last year, but then they moved it again. And what are you doing?
When she was talking, it went real low again.
I know.
sorry.
Yeah, I hope.
Do I
we're
usually have a low
Well,
voice?
no,
I
but you
sound
back
really-
up sometimes,
Oh,
like I
okay.
do.
My ears are so stopped up.
Okay, so Shelly's home life was difficult. She and her twin sister Stacy and their older sister Sherry and her father Frank moved to. Good grief.
Oh, my beloved clock.
Moved to Indian Rocks Beach, Florida from Michigan in 1984 with only the clothes on their back.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm not sure why.
In a hurry,
Three
maybe.
girls and a dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he seemed like a good guy.
Okay.
I don't know why they left with just the clothes on their back. But you can imagine you're a teenager. You're moved from Michigan to Florida, which I'd be kind of excited because Michigan would be awfully cold, full of snow. But from the outset, it seems like maybe underprivileged, kids where they didn't have, lots of, money and possessions and clothing and things like that. Or they had to leave everything behind,
Right.
and we're not sure why. So either way, I think it would have been tough. There's not a lot of background information on her, so it sounds like I'm just jumping right to the dad, but I do like him. He ran off some grown men that wanted to hang out with his teenage daughters. He's like, these are teenage girls. You guys don't need to be hanging out with my daughters. And so he ran them off his porch. So I like that. He was protective of them. But I don't know much more than that. Like, was he a good dad? Did he have to work a lot? Because it seemed like they kind of had the run of their time.
Where was the mother?
I have no idea. Like I said, there's
Maybe
not.
that's why they ran and with nothing clothes.
I have no idea. I mean, I'd like to know where the mom was. No one mentions the mom. I don't know anything about the mom. I don't know why they had to leave Michigan with just the clothes on their back. But again, it does seem there wasn't a lot of adult supervision. They pretty much ran the streets, and they hung out with people that were dangerous. And that was my life. I ran the streets too. I remember riding my bicycle all over Odessa, all over Childress, age 13 on, going to parties where adults were. I mean,
Not me.
yeah, snuck out until like 6 a.m. every day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was, definitely, this hits home for me because that was kind of the life that I had until I moved to Clovis.
I was a good girl. Clearly you weren't.
Anyway,
Well, her dad must not have known her. She
now
probably
my
wouldn't
dad
be
had me
here.
with my last stepmom. Yeah, thought I needed a mom. I'm like, if you could just stop doing that. And she was a partier, my stepmom. So they rode around a lot in cars, drank, smoked pot. Again, remember those days. But I did seem to have a sense of danger. I remember going to a party with my very first boyfriend. And it was, and I think we discussed this in one of our episodes, but it was basically an adult party, bunch of men around, and there was a pig roasting in the ground. And a lot of Mexicans were there, which I didn't mind. My boyfriend was Mexican. But when we got there, none of them were smiling. None of them were, like they did not want, what's the dog doing? They did not want a teenager there, I'm thinking. So I was like, we need to leave. And so we did.
Or were you the only
White girl? Could have been. And then I remember another time when I moved to another town, I think I was in my dad's yellow Cadillac, and I was dragging Maine by myself.
We had one of those, I think.
And it was a lemon, 100%. It broke down all the time. But I saw a very, very handsome man. And when I would drive by, I don't know how old he was, if he's like 19 or early 20s or even 30s. But I asked him if he wanted to go for a ride. And he said, yeah, because anytime I drive by him, I noticed he was looking. And the minute he got in the car, I had a feeling in my gut that something was wrong. And so I barely went down like 2 or 3 blocks, made him get out of the car.
How old were you?
16.
I have a story to tell you later.
Okay. So I think my dad just taught me awareness and what to do. And I'd almost been kidnapped when I was 8. So
Oh, my.
I definitely had a grid for that. And I don't know if Shelly did. All that to say, I don't know if she had the streets, but did she have the street smarts? Did she trust her gut? Did she know what to do if she got into a situation? So I always had a sense of danger. And, she skipped school. I mean, I skipped so much school when I lived in Childress. I still made really good grades, though. But she skipped school 67 days. So finally she dropped out at the age of 14. She is only 14. I know in Texas, you have to be at least 16. Same thing in New Mexico. You cannot drop out of school unless you're 16, or you have to have written permission from your parents.
Right.
14 seems awfully young.
But you also have to, they'll send a notice if you skip so many days to the parents.
Right. And so did he get it because he's working a lot? Did they intercept the mail? You know, was he agreeing that, you know?
Of course, that was the 80s. Did they really send notices?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. Every time my master was late, that my mother would know, they'd call. Mm-hmm. She's late.
Yeah, I got ratted out all the time.
And then you had to take a note.
Yep. I didn't have notes because I was skipping. So
I only had notes for jacking around in class. I was too hyper, apparently, and talked too much.
Well,
I always had notes and got in trouble for that.
Parents would have to send a note if you missed anything.
Yeah. I didn't get notes because, you know, I was skipping. I don't know if she was planning on returning to school the next year, though, maybe to redo that grade level. But she pretty much got in with the beach crowd, you know, because it's Florida. They'd hang out on the beach. They'd, you know, have some good time, surfing, all that stuff. On May 5th, 1985, it was a Sunday, and she'd had a great day with fun with friends. Sherry, the older sister, said that she and Shelly had hung out at the beach around 11 a.m. with several friends who often met up on the beach on Sundays. Sherry stated that neither she nor Shelly were drinking at this point, and then around 3, Shelly left the beach. So it sounds like Sherry maybe stayed for a little bit longer. She went to her friend Stephanie Forsyth's house to meet up with her and then her twin, Stacy, Shelly's twin. They decided to hitchhike, which was still a big deal around the 80s, around the beach, and they grabbed some food at an A&W, and then they were picked up by this guy who asked if they knew where to get some reefer. So it's like a replay when I was a kid, minus the beach. So they said they did, and the guy drove them to an apartment complex. Been there and done that. He gave them $30 to buy some pot. The teens ran off with the money and split it 3 ways.
Dang.
Wow.
Right. So, yeah, we don't need to go into any more details of my life. But right after this, men they were familiar with, James Dailey, Jack Pearcy, and then their friend Oza Shaw, which I actually like Oza Shaw, who was visiting from out of town, drove by. They saw the girls and they picked them up. Percy was 30 years old, and he's the one that had gone to her house, and the dad ran him off for hanging out with teenage girls, and he never went back. So if Frank would have known that she was with him, he would have been furious.
Yep.
And not only that, now we've got 2 other grown men hanging out with these teenage girls. So after being picked up, Stacy said that they went to a local convenience store, and the men bought a couple of 6-packs of wine coolers and beers. They drove around drinking and smoking pot, and then Shaw asked to be dropped off at Percy and Daly's house. So they were sharing a house, and he was staying there. And then after they dropped them off, the 3 girls, so we've got Stephanie, Stacy, and Shelly, went with Percy, and Bailey to a local bar called the Driftwood. It sounds like the girls didn't go in. They stayed outside on the beach talking and, you know, drinking past dark. Stacy told the investigators that neither of the men hit on Shelly, but they did come on to her by flirting with her. And then she said that Dailey was acting weird. That's a quote.
Oh.
So
Do you have a picture of the girls?
Oh my gosh, I forgot to open up the pictures. Yeah, hang on. My apologies to our listeners. Let me get these pictures up, and there's nothing that is too disturbing. Okay. I'm not sure what order these will be in. So that's her. That's Shelly. So that's her younger.
Oh, red hair.
And then this is her older. She definitely was getting cuter as she got older. And then this is her sister today.
Twin.
Yeah, so.
Pretty. That's a twin?
I saw it, the show.
Love her hair.
And she was on that show talking about it. So this is her.
Okay.
So they ran out of alcohol, and so they tried to then go to another bar called Quarterdeck, but they were told to leave because the girls didn't have legit IDs.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the bartender recognized they were fake. They tried to pull out the fake ones. So they then decided to go back to Percy and Dailey's house to smoke more pot and watch an Alfred Hitchcock movie. So now it's around 10 p.m. Stacy said that her sister was, quote, bubbly. I'm sure she was stoned, probably intoxicated at this point. And I'm not sure who, but someone got the idea to go to Jerry's Rock Disco. But Stacy, Stephanie, and Oza Shaw didn't want to go. Percy's pregnant girlfriend, Gail, and Shelly did want to go. So they dropped Stacy and Stephanie off at their homes, and they proceeded to go to the disco. So at this point, we have Shelly, we have Gail, we have Percy, and we have Bailey.
Where's the dad when they're out so
Or
late
Oza.
and all day?
Exactly. That's why I'm wondering if he had to work.
I mean, yeah.
Like, did he have a night shift?
Or was he out partying and whatnot?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder that as well. So they dropped the two girls off. They go to the disco. This time, Shelly's fake ID did work. Gail stated that Shelly danced with Percy at the club, but not Dailey. And I wonder if... I've thought a lot about that. And I wonder if she felt safer with Percy because he had a girlfriend. Like, if I was in that situation, just thinking back to those days when I was running the streets, it's like I would have probably avoided the single man. I would have felt safer with the one that had the girlfriend.
Right.
That's interesting. I would have done the opposite.
Oh, you would have?
Yeah, I don't think I would. Especially if I
he was interested in me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
But-
not want a grown man.
Now,
back
if
then.
I had a gut feeling, no.
If he was interested in you, but he had a girlfriend, I'd probably feel safe that
Yeah.
she would intervene.
Yeah.
Or not, or he wouldn't do anything in front of her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the other part, like you said, if something was a little bit weird, the twin said he was acting weird.
Right.
So Shelly may have picked up on that, and it wasn't necessarily that she felt safer with Percy, but she could tell something was off with them, and so she's avoiding them because she didn't dance with Oza Shaw. But from what it sounds like with Oza, he was standoffish with the teenage girls.
Right.
So I'm thinking he wasn't too keen on this deal.
Which one was 30? Percy? Yeah, the moment I had a weird feeling, that was it.
Yeah, you'd be out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Now, they hung out there for a while. They go back to Percy and Dailey's house, and Gail Bailey lived there, the girlfriend. When they got there, Oza was not at the disco. I'm sorry. He was actually at the house, and he had taken a nap. So he asked for a ride to a payphone so that he could call his girlfriend. Shaw stated in court docs that when he woke up, and this is important, this is where it starts getting interesting, Percy was leaving with Shelly. So just because there's so many names flying around.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Percy and Dailey, who are roommates at the house.
And how old are they?
In their 30s.
Okay.
Percy's girlfriend is Gail Bailey, not Dailey. So Gail Bailey. Mm-hmm. So
She's
Percy, Gail, who's pregnant, and Dailey go to the disco with Shelly. Shelly dances with Percy. Okay. Oza is back at the house napping. So when they get back to the house, that's when he wakes up and he sees Percy leaving with Shelly.
Okay.
Okay? So he said, "Hey, can you take me to the payphone?" And they're like, "Sure." So they were waiting in the car. He goes out to the car. He gets in. They take him to the payphone. And then they got impatient because he's having this long conversation with his girlfriend while they're waiting in the car. So both Shelly and Percy got impatient. So he was on the phone for about an hour.
Wow.
So he walked back to the house after his call. Okay? No one knows where and what Percy and Shelly were doing during this time. So at this point, Gail and Dailey are at the house. Oza is on the payphone. Percy and Shelly drive off. And he was on the phone for an hour. Okay? Now, Dailey's defense team say that this is when Shelly was killed. Okay? And that's because Dailey was at the house. And I am very suspicious of this, of Pearcy and Shelly being alone.
Oh,
Right.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty obvious.
Now, at some point, so we got Oza who walked back home. Pearcy comes home. He went straight to Dailey's room to get him to go back out. And Dailey agreed. So Pearcy states, that Shelly was in the car for that last outing, and that's when she was killed. So he's saying she wasn't killed when I was alone with her. We were partying. We go back to the house to get Dailey, and then Dailey gets in the car, and we all party, and then both of us killed her. Okay?
Oh.
So he states that she was still alive when he went and got Dailey. I don't buy it, but so Dailey said that Pearcy left with Shelly earlier to take her home, he thought, and that he later woke him up. So when he went to the car, she was not in the car. So he thought she's at home in bed, but she wasn't.
Shaw wasn't around. He didn't see anything.
Nope.
Or Gail.
He didn't see. Now later they did, which is
Okay.
where the suspicion toward Dailey happens. Okay. And there's some suspicious behavior. So if Shelly was already killed at this point, her time of death would have been between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m.
PM or
PM?
AM. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Oh.
So Percy may have been trying to fabricate an alibi by getting Dailey, or he was hyped up after murdering her and wanted to hang out with Dailey. So it could be that. Now, Shaw did testify that Dailey was in his room before leaving with Percy again. So we do know that he was there with Shaw when Percy and Shelly were alone. Okay?
Gotcha.
I know there's a lot of names flying around. He also stated that Percy returned hours after leaving with Shelly alone.
Oh, hours. And he was on the phone for an hour.
Yep. And it was actually 4 when he woke Dailey up.
Oh.
So the timeline is pointing to Percy, not Dailey. Okay? And then he said that they grabbed some beer, and Percy stated he had a couple joints too.
My gosh.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Certainly didn't party like that.
So Gail Bailey and then Oza, who was sleeping on the couch. So he's going to have this view of
And get
everybody coming in
woken
and
up.
out. Yep. He said that both men came back around 2 to 3 a.m. and that, I know, because we've got this 4 a.m. deal. But he said that both men came back around 2 to 3 and that Dailey's jeans were soaking wet from the butt down and that he was carrying his shirt. Percy was not wet. Dailey said that he was wet from playing frisbee on the beach and that he got in the water. So I would want to know, if they did play frisbee, whose idea was it? Because let's take that if Shelly's dead, her body was found on the beach. Okay? So if Percy killed her alone, he then goes and gets Dailey, which we already have these discrepancies with 4 a.m., 2 and 3 a.m. and all of that.
Right.
But if she was killed within the 1:30 and the 3:30, he comes back, he gets Dailey, and he's like, hey, let's play frisbee. Mm-hmm. Well, he doesn't get wet, but he makes sure Dailey gets wet.
Right.
Would he be smart enough to even think of that, though?
I don't know.
Or were they just by chance playing frisbee?
Well, if they were playing frisbee at all.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they were, and which Dailey says, we were playing frisbee. I didn't kill any chick. We're playing frisbee. I could see Percy throwing it toward the water. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's kind of interesting. Or it could be they didn't play frisbee at all.
That sure is late and dark to be playing frisbee.
Mm-hmm. And most beaches are dark at night. Like, you don't have tons of light, especially this time of night. If they close their bars, like most places at 2, there's no lights.
Unless
it's
there are
very faint.
Homes around.
I don't think so, but I do have some pictures of the area. In fact, let me just show you so these are the criminals. supposedly.
Oh,
That's
my gosh.
Dailey, and the unibrow is Pearcy.
He looks way old.
Who, Dailey?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that's Dailey today.
That's interesting. He actually looks attractive in the middle. Not so much there.
And this is in 1987. That's in February. There's a whole thing behind that as well.
Wow, that is truly a unibrow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I thought I had a picture of the... Oh, here we go. So there's not a lot going on.
And I'm interested to know how she was murdered. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is
we'll
that
get
where
to
she was found?
The area. Mm-hmm.
So there might be more beach where they were playing Frisbee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't play right there.
No,
No.
you can't. They were probably further down.
Okay.
Okay, so a bridge tender found her body in the early morning hours of May 6, floating in the intercoastal waterway of the Route 688 bridge in Indian Rocks Beach. So there's the bridge where she was found. She'd been strangled and stabbed numerous times in the hands, abdomen, and neck, but her cause of death was drowning.
Yep. And he was wet. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Dr. Joan Wood, the Pinellas County medical examiner, said that she had 31 stab wounds, 18 were defensive. Some of the wounds went completely through her hands because you immediately try to protect yourself with your hands. She said that they were the worst defensive wounds she had seen in her career, implying that Shelley fought hard to live. She believes that she was stabbed repeatedly, then discarded in the water alive. And that's why she drowned. And she said that her death would have been excruciating. There were signs of either rape or attempted rape because she was found naked and her panties were at the crime scene, but there was no physical evidence of rape because her body was in the water and it would have washed all of that away.
Now, rape or just intercourse?
Well, I'm thinking they're assuming rape because her clothes, the condition of them being ripped off,
the
fact
ripped.
that she was stabbed.
Oh, they were ripped. Yeah.
So the next morning, Dailey and Pearcy visit a self-service laundry, and then they return to the house where they told Gail to pack. They were leaving for Miami. So this is, to me, the strongest evidence so far that they were both guilty.
Yes, but how long had they been in that area, too? Like, is that normal for them?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the suddenness and we're out of here, that was not normal.
Maybe Percy said, hey, let's go to this
I
area.
thought about
and
that.
He said, okay.
Yeah, if they're roomies, they sound like friends. Hey, let's go down to Miami. Okay. I mean, they're obviously like semi-transient maybe. They may have jobs, I don't know, but they're not tied down to a mortgage, and children in school and all of that. So they would have been able to pull up stakes and go whenever they wanted, probably.
And it's not too far-fetched that they were in the water, if he was in the water playing.
Yeah. But they go to the laundry and then we're out. So it didn't take investigators long to focus, obviously, on Pearcy and Dailey. Pearcy initially pled not guilty, and he accused Dailey of murdering Shelly while he was asleep in the car. But then later he pled guilty and accused Dailey of murdering Shelly, or pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. He also testified that Dailey is the one that killed Shelly, but he's gone back and forth over the decades. Sometimes he says Dailey didn't have anything to do with it. Other times he said he did it. Other times he says Dailey did it. So he's changed his testimony, his whatever, so much that you can't trust anything he's saying. So, and he's even under deposition said, I did it. He didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, he did have the time from the phone call.
He did. But then later, no, he
Mother
did
was
it.
asleep, and he had a witness he's asleep.
That's really bizarre.
It is bizarre, especially after. Like, you're already convicted. Dailey's already convicted. Why are you going back and forth? Like, it's not going to serve him in any way unless he's thinking an appeal. But it's still not going to help you when you go back and forth.
Probably embarrassment.
Could be.
Look at Bundy. He never admitted he killed that young girl.
Yeah. Well,
So,
you know, I mean, if
when
you
you
walk
kill a
around with a
child,
unibrow, I don't know how
yeah.
you could be embarrassed on anything else after that. You know what I'm saying?
But killing and raping a child, I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so court documents show that Pearcy was convicted first. He was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder because he wanted to avoid the death penalty, right? Dailey pled not guilty, and from what I can tell, he was convicted on the word, not any evidence, but on the word of 3 other inmates in the county jail.
What?
That testified. Dailey
told
confessed to them the murder, and that he and Pearcy had a plan to get Pearcy off and then himself.
You know, it's baffling to me on those situations where they don't tell anybody anything, but yet they're going to tell inmates that they just met.
And
yeah.
plead innocent.
And not only that, but as we get through the supposed confessions, it's going to be even more shocking.
Okay.
Now, what supposedly these, inmates learned is that Dailey was going to later confess that he murdered Shelly when Pearcy's first appeal came up, and that Pearcy, in return, would promise not to testify against him at his trial, which he did refuse to testify. But it doesn't make sense, because if Dailey confessed, it was certain he would be convicted and Pearcy would get off. And then because of a confession, he'd never get out.
Right.
He'd never get out. Now, they're probably not the smartest people, so maybe they thought that if one said, I did it, and then later said, no, I didn't, and the other one says, I did, maybe they thought that would be grounds for an appeal. It's not. They're not going to take it for an appeal. You got 2 criminals in their eyes that are just trying to take the blame and shift it to each other and take it away. It's not going to get them before an appeal.
Do you know if Dailey ever did that flip-flop thing?
No, he did not.
He didn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
And he always said Pearcy did it.
Okay.
The story is BS as far as I'm concerned, but the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to death on the testimony of 3 convicts. Now, they'll try to say, oh no, we had other evidence. I've dug through it. If there's other evidence, I don't know where it is. There was nothing physical tying him to the crime scene. The only thing that made it even close that he had anything to do with it is when he returned with wet pants,
right,
which could have been explained if they were playing Frisbee, right? So we only have the wet pants to get him even close to murdering Shelly.
And only the back was wet. He could have been sitting on the beach.
Well, he said he was playing Frisbee, and that's why he was wet. But just the whole thing is stunning. And at the time, or after Shelly's murder, Dailey actually left Miami and it ended up in California. And he had to be extradited from California to Florida to stand trial. So he was arrested in November of 85. The prosecution used his movements after the murder as evidence of fleeing the crime and consciousness of guilt. I can see that. Because again, that does go to the body of evidence. But he had moved to Florida months before the murder, and then the day after he goes to Miami. So I can see how they'd be like, and then he months later ends up in California. Pearcy, who had fled to Miami, was brought back to Indian Rocks on May 21st. They collected his shirt at his mother's, his shoes, a knife sheath found at the Walsingham Reservoir, which he told them that's where it was. And then I'm assuming it forensically tied Pearcy to her murder, but there was never anything connecting Dailey. Now, on the whole, his movements. Okay, so let's visit about this a little bit. What if he has no idea Shelly's been murdered, right? He thinks that she is at home asleep. Percy's like, hey, dude, I got to do some laundry. You got some? Yeah. He goes up to the laundromat And then Percy's like, you know what? I'm already tired of here. Let's hit Miami. Let's see what the party scene is there. All right. You know, he's unattached. Okay, let's go. So they go down to Miami, and then they split ways after a few months. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to hit the other coast. So he goes to California. He's living his life. Percy, in the meantime, you know, the cops are collecting evidence. They get him arrested. I could see his movements post-death being innocent.
Right.
That he has no idea he's a suspect.
And if someone says, hey, let's go to Miami, I would probably wash all my clothes nice and clean before I left. Wouldn't you?
You're
I mean,
funny.
I wouldn't take dirty laundry to Florida.
I mean, you know, grown men probably are concerned about that before they just leave everything.
I would think so.
It also points to the beach aspect of his life. I'm done with this area, this coast, this beach. I'm going to go hang out at the other one.
Especially if he knew Percy murdered the girl.
Well, so the other side of that could be that Dailey was guilty and that he wanted to get as far away from Florida as possible, or that he knew Percy murdered her and that because they were friends, they were going to try to get him too.
Yep.
So there's just so many scenarios, and all that to say, I wouldn't be able to count that as evidence.
I wouldn't either.
Here's the thing. Percy knew where the weapon was.
The sheath.
The sheath. What I find interesting is just the weapon alone. That's physical evidence. That was Percy's, or he admitted to it.
Yeah.
No physical evidence with Dailey, but yet Dailey got the death penalty.
Exactly. That's where there's no justice. There's no justice for Shelly, and there's no justice because the only reason Percy didn't get the death penalty is he pled. Dailey's like, I didn't do this. I'm going to court. And then he gets the death penalty.
I would have done the same thing.
What?
If you're not guilty, if
Gone
I
to
wasn't
court.
guilty.
Yeah. There was no evidence. There was absolutely no evidence that he did this.
I've mentioned this before in a different seasoning. I'm hungry. It's baffling to me, again, in these situations on the cases where there can be such little evidence. And then there's a crud ton and no conviction or no pursuing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a crazy one, and we'll go over what we think as far as guilt or innocence. Now, during the guilt phase case, they found him guilty. Dailey's prior conviction was introduced. It was a violent felony of aggravated battery. The prosecution believes that his prior conviction proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Dailey's motive for taking Shelly to that location was for sexual battery and that her undress proves it. They also stated there was evidence introduced in trial that Shelly had rebuffed his advances earlier that evening. Well, how do we know? Because she had a twin. How do they know that it wasn't Stacy who did say they were flirting with her? The witnesses, how would they know which one it was? There's no way.
They were identical?
Gotcha.
They were twins, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were identical.
So I wouldn't be able to say which one it was.
So the one that he was convicted of, was that someone he knew or didn't know?
I could not find any details on that. And if the neighbors, if the listeners have any insight into that, I would love to know.
Yeah.
I do know he served in the Air Force. And he had a pretty much clean record other than this battery. And notice, it doesn't say sexual battery.
Right.
So was that he got in a fight at a bar?
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't have enough details. Now, if he attacked a female and beat her and then tried to rape her, now we're talking about something I can sink my teeth into. But even then, I would be nervous convicting merely on a past, so you can't bring that in, right? We're in the guilt phase. But I would still be nervous giving him the death penalty on just that conviction too.
That would sway me, actually.
If it's just a bar fight, not me. If it was sexual battery,
yeah,
I'd be more inclined. But there's such a lack of evidence. I'd be like, yeah, I could see how he could do it, but I don't have any evidence to come to the conclusion that he deserves a death penalty. If he's dead, that's it. And he might have been innocent. So, yeah, there's not hardly anything in it. It really bothers me. So I couldn't find any evidence that he had made any advances. Maybe he did try later on Shelly. I don't know.
And Pearcy is the one where the dad ran him off?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Her underwear was found about 140 feet from her other clothing, and there was a trail of blood. So we know that at this point, her clothes are being ripped off. She's already bleeding, so she's probably already started to be beaten or stabbed. And then she's either taken or she's trying to run. I don't know how the blood drops were. Were they just drops like she's being carried, or were they drops where she's running, trying to get away from her attacker?
Okay, and that was a very brutal, bloody attack, and Pearcy came home fine.
As far as I know, yes.
Unless you go one sleeping, the other's with his girlfriend in another room. He could have went straight to the bathroom.
Well,
change his clothes.
Shaw said that he saw them both come in and gave a description.
Oh, yeah.
And were there any cuts noted on either one of the guys?
I didn't see any evidence of any cuts.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause that's really common, isn't it?
It can be, but I'm thinking maybe not, because there was a knife sheath. So if you take a knife from the kitchen and you stab someone, more than likely your hand's going to slip and you're going to cut yourself, right? But with knives that have sheaths that you carry with you, they have a guard. So if you stab,
okay,
yeah, so he probably wouldn't have any wounds.
Yep.
I would expect maybe that she was clawing or trying to get away from him. I would love to know if they found DNA under her fingernails.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
If they ever tested, I couldn't find anything like that.
This is weird. Couldn't find much of anything on this case.
There's not much of anything.
You know what? With DNA now and the appeal, the Innocent Project, I'm surprised they haven't exhumed and done some DNA under the fingernails.
Well,
it sure took them a while.
I'm not, for a few reasons. So his appeals have ran out. Now they're trying to appeal to the governor. Like, let's look at some more things here. Well, the governor, he's pro-victim, right? He's going to be like, no. But I don't think they can just decide to exhume her body. They need to, because the family might be like, I don't want my daughters. We know who did this. I don't want her disturbed. So they're going to take the consideration of the family in. So the prosecutor is legally obligated to protect the verdict. A lot of people don't know that. They get mad at prosecutors for vigorously opposing any idea of innocence. But part of their job is to oppose any argument of innocence. And so I doubt the prosecution is going to try to talk her family into exhuming her body.
And some prosecutors in some cases I've seen, they know the guy's innocent, but they will still stand by the verdict.
They will. And I think that's wrong. Even though that is your job, I still think it's wrong.
And it's interesting. So the Innocent Project, how long's it been? They're just now taking
I think
the
it's
case?
been fairly recent, like in the last few years.
So he's been in jail since 87, and they're just now taking it?
Now, one of the showstoppers that testified, his name is Paul Skalnick. All of them stated that Dailey told each of them individually that he had killed Shelly, right? But later, a federal judge, Judge Ed Carnes, said that, quote, the key testimony used to convict James Dailey of murder was likely false because of the layout of the jail where Dailey was being housed and the procedures used for prisoners in protective custody like Skelnick. It would have been impossible for Dailey to confess to any of them. And then on top of that, Skelnick was a prolific jailhouse informant used in at least 37 cases in the Pinellas County alone to testify or supply information for officials.
Did they bring that up in the trial?
I think so.
And they still convicted him?
There's also a pattern of leniency towards Skalnick, including being released 5 days after testifying against Dailey. The scenario is not believable either, because here's how it would have happened because of the layout of the jailhouse. So he would have been walking down the hall yelling, shouting that he killed this girl for Skelnick to even hear it. So it's crap. And I was like, okay, who is this poop bird Skelnick? I was like, who is he? So he was born in 1949. He was adopted when he was young. He was raised in League City, Texas. Started off great. He was on the student council, the Key Club, voted president of the Future Business Leaders of America. After high school, he went to the New Mexico Military Institute, which is in Roswell. I've seen it, been there numerous times. He was then a police officer for a little over a year in Austin. And while he was there, he was charged with theft from writing a bunch of hot checks. So he's forced to resign. So then he decided to become an insurance agent. And he was divorced twice. When he married his third wife, Penny, he became physically abusive to her and her children. And he started touching Penny's daughter, Lisa Rogers, inappropriately. And they had her on there. And she said he was an evil, evil man. And but he never faced charges for being a scumbag that likes to molest little girls. He was arrested in the spring of 78 in Houston for writing a dozen bad checks. He was arrested in 82 and charged, but never prosecuted for, quote, lewd and lascivious conduct on a child under the age of 14 after a 12-year-old girl accused him of attacking her. They dropped the charge and continued to use him as an informant.
How long was he in jail? Was he in jail before
Dailey?
Shelly was killed?
Yeah, he was in jail.
But he's in all those cases, the jury knows it, as an informant.
Well, they kind of hide a few things. Because they dropped the molestation charge, so they didn't have to say that he was in jail for it. So the prosecutors dropped the charge so that when they gave his background, they didn't have to say child molestation.
But he had other things.
Hot checks.
Hot checks, the wife saying that her husband...
No, they can't include that because he wasn't convicted.
That poor kid.
Yeah, they can only include what he's been convicted for. And according to the jurors, the only thing they know about are hot checks. That's all they know about. He served time in 84 for grand theft auto and was granted parole in exchange for testifying against others, even though that's not supposed to happen. 2 years later, he was back in jail, but he testified against Dailey, and the past charges of the molestation were dropped so he could portray himself as a lesser criminal of nonviolent crimes. Skelnick even said, "I've not been convicted of murder, rape, no physical violence in my life."
Which is true.
After the Dailey case, he went back to Texas, met another lady, and began molesting her daughter, Misty Anderson. That's the one I saw that was describing how wicked he was. He was finally convicted in 93 and sentenced to just 10 years.
Wow.
So in spite of his past, he was a professional snitch, and the prosecutions insisted that he was vetted, and they used him. He has refused to retract his accusations, and he has since died.
Wow.
Now, let's do the aftermath and then get into our thoughts. Pearcy's last declaration of Dailey's innocence was in 2019. He said, "James Dailey had nothing to do with the murder of Shelly. I committed the crime alone. James Dailey was back at the house when I drove Shelly to the place where I ultimately killed her." He then said he had nothing more to say and he did not want to be brought back to court to testify again. At an evidentiary hearing in March of 2020, he refused to testify despite numerous attempts by the judge to get him to do so. And because he refused, the trial court could not use the new evidence claim based on his declarations in 2019. There was another deposition in 2020 where he denied that he was solely responsible and that he lied in 2019 to keep Dailey from being executed.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the lies.
It goes back and forth. You got all the names, you got all the lies, you got twins, you got all these girls with names that start with S's.
Right.
I was
Shelley,
like, Stephanie,
Shannon,
Stacy,
Sherry.
Sherry, Shelly.
Right.
Gail's the only one that has a different name. So the injustice is the fact that, like we discussed, Pearcy confessed to murdering. He gets life. Dailey, who has repeatedly claimed he did not murder her, gets the death penalty. It might seem unreasonable that both the courts and the prosecution haven't reversed the death penalty or given him a new trial, but the legal system has made it incredibly hard to reverse such things. In fact, they're legally obligated to uphold them. Okay, so I'm going to give you... Actually, I want to hear y'all's thoughts first. So what do you think, Elena, as far... Like, give me percentages as far as innocence or guilt.
Of which one?
Well, we know Percy's guilty. So as far as Dailey...
How do we know Percy's guilty? He kept going back and forth.
No, he always said he did it.
Oh, so... Yeah, but first of all, I feel like Percy's a liar. Second of all, he didn't have anything on his clothing, possibly.
Well, we don't know. I mean, they collected his clothes and they used all that evidence to let him know we got you, and so he confessed.
Yeah, I'm talking about the witness. I'm not convinced that either one of them. I wouldn't have convicted Dailey.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. But what do you think he was guilty? Like, even though there's not evidence, where are you leaning as far as guilt or innocent? Okay.
I don't either. But Percy knew where the body was. He knew where the knife was, or the...
Did he know where the body was?
I don't know if it mentioned
there, didn't you say?
They discovered her body, but he did tell him where the knife sheath was.
Yeah, and I don't think Dailey was guilty at all.
Okay, so I'm leaning 80% toward Dailey's innocence. I do believe that Percy probably did kill Shelly when he was supposed to take her home. He had a very pregnant girlfriend, making me wonder if sex was limited at that time due to her pregnancy. He has this young 14-year-old that had been dancing with him at the club, probably, got some thoughts in his head. Did he believe that she liked him? And he decided to make a move on her when he was taking her home, and then he found out she was not interested.
Yeah, dancing and leaving with him, just him.
Yep. And she's a naive 14-year-old, so she's not going to have any idea her power. They don't know their power even at that age.
Right.
So did he try to rape her, or did he rape her at knife point and she fought hard? So he stabbed her, threw her in the water, and the knife and sheath at a different location. Then he goes back to the house after his pants dried some so that no one noticed they were wet, and then got Dailey to go back to the beach with him and play Frisbee, intentionally incriminating Dailey. The other scenario is that Shelly was in the car and both he and Dailey killed her. So like he maybe tried to strangle her, stabbed her, panicked, and then he got Dailey to help him dispose of her. So that could happen as well, and that would explain why his movements were a little bit suspicious. But I do believe that, again, I'm thinking it was solely Percy, that Dailey had nothing to do with it, and that even his actions post-conviction or post-crime are explainable. And if I was on the jury, I wouldn't have been able to convict him. The only thing is, the snitches,
they should have got
the
stitches.
Defense, right? Did the defense point out the layout of the jail? Did they do their due diligence? Did they know?
Sound like it.
I know. It's kind of like the Michael Peterson case. You cannot ignore the owl feather, right? So did they not do their work and notice it would have been impossible for Dailey to confess to any of the inmates?
And they probably just had public defenders.
Yeah.
And we know most of those are just...
They can be very,
yeah,
unconcerned, that their caseloads are too heavy. So I think actually Dailey probably should be let out.
Yeah.
I could see it going both ways, but I'm definitely at 80%.
Well, I hope they hurry, because he's been in there since 87.
Yeah, he's older.
I just don't know if DeSantis is going to do it.
I doubt it.
Yeah. Governors don't like jacking with that stuff. And it's actually a heightened case there. Like we may not have heard much about it, but it's a big deal. And I could see how the family and people that haven't dug in would be like, you can't let this guy out. He's a killer. And so a lot of times governors take the public into consideration because they need to run.
And
But
they're
if-
political, yeah.
Yeah, but if they're innocent, take the time to look. I mean, and not just. No, I'm not
I
gonna
don't
mess with
know,
the death
because
penalty.
how many appeals to stay a conviction or stay a sentence or pardon or give clemency does he get? I mean, there's no telling how many.
In Florida and Texas, governors won't do it. I wouldn't think. I haven't, look now, California. I can
And New
see
Mexico will.
California.
We've had some in New Mexico where they've let them out
It's a shame he's executed for being
in the wrong
innocent.
place at the
Yeah,
wrong time.
Wrong place.
Well, and to me, it's a shame that he'd be executed 3 snitches.
Yeah.
When there's no way.
Physical evidence. Okay, so let me ask you a final question on this episode. Do you think that he knew what occurred and helped after? Like, do you think he had any knowledge of what occurred?
Did he keep saying, I didn't kill the girl and that was it? Mm-hmm. I could see him knowing and helping.
Yeah, I could too.
Especially being wet.
I could too. Like, they didn't play Frisbee, but he helped him dispose of the body.
Yeah,
but
how can you play Frisbee at
But
night?
then, though, the only thing with that is, like, Pearcy would have had to have left her body to go get Dailey. She's only 14. He could have easily got her in the water.
I don't know if he knew. And besides that, if you've been on the beach, when the moon's bright, you can see.
That's true.
And we don't know how many houses or
Oh, it's
lighting of
May
any
5th.
kind.
We ought to see what the moon was.
Hey, real quick, I also want to ask listeners to tell us if your opinion was swayed on these cases based on
Oh yeah,
evidence and our combos.
that's a good idea.
I would love to hear that. Okay, so I'm looking up to see what the moon was on May 5th,
1985.
85. And drum roll, please. No, just kidding. It was waning. So I don't know moon speak.
I'm like, that's not helpful. I've never even
So
heard
this
that
is
word.
the first phase after the full moon, where the illumination of the moon decreases each
Yep.
day until it reaches 50. So his first phase past full moon, so it would have been bright.
Yeah,
They would have been able to see.
since it was the first day.
Yeah, and so they could have been playing Frisbee.
Only because I have been to a beach before where it's bright.
And when that moon's out, it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that, concludes this one. So we need to do our sayings, of course. Be smart.
Be rude.
Mine's be rude.
No.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Don't be a victim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared.
Okay,
Can we do it again?
1, 2, 3.
Don't be a victim. You lost out, Mom.
Right.
Sorry.
Ah.
Gonna stop. Outline of a Murder is a Mr. Joseph production. What do you think, Joseph?